dropping some knowledge and a little love. This is the Fire on Your Head podcast with your host, Steve Bremner. Steve Bremner, missionary to Peru and blogger at stevebremner.com. The podcast where we tackle gray areas your pastor doesn't talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Bremner.
Greetings and welcome to the show. And if you don't know my name or the name of this show, then my intro sucks. I don't know if I'm overwhelmed or underwhelmed or I'm whelmed, but like I said, I haven't done an episode of this show in a few years. And I finally got to sit down with J.D. King. We've sat down and we've had calls. We've become friends over the years. I would, in a heartbeat, do an episode of the podcast with him. But I hadn't been doing the podcast in years. So we almost collaborated on a healing book a few years ago, but I had to kind of put a pause on it and focus on things that were paying the bills. And I know he and I have done a few webinars. I'm sorry, we're not calling them webinars anymore. Live virtual events with kingdom-minded writers, other believers who feel called to write a book. And so in the weeks to come, you're going to hear episodes with people who I'm interviewing about their books, just like before, just like I was doing for years. But one of the main things I've been doing for the last few years, besides doing audiobooks for people, is helping Christian entrepreneurs and thought leaders write their own books or launch their own books that they have written or whatever the exact circumstances are. Now, I'm going to come back at the end because I really want to get to this stuff with JD. And I know some of you will not stick around till the end. So there's that tug and pull of, whether do I put certain pieces of information here in the introduction and make you listen to me before getting to our guest, or do I hang on and wait until the end when fewer of you are going to make it that far? And I've decided I'm going to wait until the end. Just to whet your appetite of what JD and I did talk about today, we tackled why is it so difficult for Christians to market themselves? Whether any business, but in particular books, like you feel God has put something on your heart and now you're going to obey and you're going to write it and work on it and put it out there. Why would you not do your part and do everything reasonably possible to reach the people? Steve, Noah built the ark and God brought the animals. Sure, but you're not Noah. You're not building an ark. You took the time to write your book. Whether there's pastors and Christian leaders, you have no problem believing he's put something on your heart to get up and share in a pulpit, and you've got an audience in that capacity, that setting. You're going to make sure that you do it to a level of excellency. So why all of a sudden do we stink at marketing? I don't want to promote myself. I want to make sure that God's the only one getting the glory. Well, do you think God gets glory if you spend a few years working on a book and then you release it and do nothing? You get no sales. You don't have anyone buying it. You don't have anyone reading it, even if they don't buy it. Do you think God gets glory? Oh, well, I didn't write it for the masses. I wrote it to be obedient to God. Well, then I can't help you. Neither one of us can help you. I don't know why you're listening to this episode if that's how you are. But for those of you, you've got stuff burning in you. This is still fire on your head. It's just the natural evolution of combining it with what I'm doing, helping people take their messages, their insights, the things that God has put on their heart, and implement that into spreading content, specifically in the form of books, but there's a lot of overlap between blogging, podcasting, and writing books, blooks, whatever those are. JD and I covered content marketing, getting seen, the key word there being visibility, and list building, all sorts of things related to that. And then we had to end it after 45 minutes, 50 minutes or whatever. So there's going to be more of these kind of conversations. I'm definitely going to talk to JD again, but also look forward to some guests that I've just never had the guts to reach out to in the past. They might not have been on my radar. But anyway, let's get going. This is my interview with J.D. King. I don't think I've said very much of an introduction for him, but some of what he's doing and who he is comes up in the discussion, and we hit the ground running. So let's get at it. Amen. I want to start with this. As you were praying for this episode, and whether or not to rebrand and call it something different than Fire in Your Head. Every time I've tried to rebrand or think of a new name, I never know what to go with, right?
Yeah, there's nothing Fire on Your Head. I think it's kind of a cool name,
Right. And I invited you on to talk about books, talk about writing. You and I have done a couple of I think we called them webinars, but now I'm going to start referring to them as virtual live events about kingdom writing. So I don't want to take up your time, too much of your time, but what's burning on your heart the most, that you think like, you know what, let's start with this.
Well, I mean, I think I'm thinking about, how a little bit of how to get in front of people who, I think one of the dilemmas, I feel like I've got a product that sometimes I feel like I can't get in front of an audience, which I know is a little bit of a marketing issue, if you will. But it's like, I don't know. I'm still asking a question. I'm trying to get in front of spirit-filled leaders, world changers, people that are, hungry for the works of God. I've got a couple of new projects, like Dr. Ruthven's new book and his old book that I'm redoing, and these are considered world-class books. And like, okay, how do I really? And I get it. I'm going to be doing Amazon sale, ads. I'm going to be doing all that. I get it, but like, how do I really get in front of an audience of people who really don't want to be marketed to? That
right.
They would actually love the book. But it's like I just can't, outside of speaking at a conference, outside of word of mouth or whatever, I just honestly can't get in front of what I'm saying is, if I could really reach this audience, I could probably see a lot of books sold. I could see my company taking off exponentially financially.
Sure.
And I get, there's some things I was going to have to, do the elbow grease. I get it. I'm going to have to do direct mail. I get it. I'm going to have to build my email list. I get it. All that. I may have to be invited on podcasts more, maybe get a chance to speak at a conference. I get all that. I'm planning to do that, but it's like, it's almost like somebody saying, hey, wait for another 5-10 years till you start getting some good traction, and then it'll work for you.
Dude, I think we're stumbling on to talking about how to market your book. And it's funny is because in the last week I've had conversations with people, sometimes who've approached me out of thin air on Messenger or something on social media. And then other people I'm just kind of following up with, because if people listening to this heard the last recording I made by myself, and I opened up this mic and was sharing about the tongues, the whole thing was, people should go listen to it, so I don't repeat it here. So just to waste your time, I got you for a limited amount of time. And so I was having conversations with people like, how's your book doing? Oh yeah. What do you do to market it? And it's like with Christians, and I think one of our live virtual events, we talked about this, where it's like Christians are afraid of operating in their flesh or something. And, the idea of like, if I have to do anything to market the book, then I'm leaning on the arm of my flesh, and I just want to write the book, and God gave me the revelation. God put this on me. So I just want to write books and not have to market and all that. And I was like, well, then good luck selling your book. Yeah, good luck getting people to read it. And I think you've heard me say, when God rained the manna down, like he did his part, but the people had to do their part too. Like he gave them parameters, like he provided the sustenance, and it's there on the ground, but they had to go get it at a certain time of day and only certain days of the week. And then on Sunday, if they tried, there would be nothing. And Saturday it would last 2 days, to make up for something, whatever. It's like we could go into that for another sermon stuff. Sure. But the idea that like God will do his part, but we have to do our part, and we can't expect a harvest where we don't so, you know what I mean? And
I hear you. Well, I mean, I laugh. I'm bringing up all this stuff. I mean, I know sadly some of the answers here, and and I obviously, I massively believe in putting effort in. I mean, I spend money on Amazon ads. I send emails out. I've built an email list. I'm actually working on it. I just need to continue to do better because I actually feel like I'm getting a lot of the rest of the business down better, but I've got to really up my game here a little more. And I think part of it for me is I just need to spend more money on talking about it, getting advertising material. And, admittedly, I'm dragging my feet. And I mean, just having a straight up conversation. I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking the other day, but like, I've got an opportunity to do a direct mail, and I think I'm going to do it. But, I'm going to mail it maybe to 1,000 people. But, the postage alone, if I'm doing a first class stamp in the U.S., that's going to be $600 just on the postage. Not counting, if I have these custom envelopes made, and I'm okay with all that, but I have a little catalog I'm trying to do with all my different books from Christos Publishing, and it's like 4 pages, almost like a legal size thing folded in half, four pages, and I'm talking to a local printer, and he wants to charge me like $800 for 2,000, and I'm thinking about doing it, but that means my mailing is going to be just, $1,500. I mean, right. I have to sell a lot of books. I mean, like, I'm just saying, I sell $2,000 worth of books, and I made a little money, but it's not like anything substantial. It's like, oh, is this worth it to do this? Do I really want to?
See, you're in different circumstances than I am, and that's why I think this mishmash conversation works, because you're doing things I would never do, and maybe I have an idea or two that works for me and whatever. Like, I think one of our calls we did with people, those live events, where that was a thing. Like, you could speak to that kind of stuff more than I could, just because I live in South America, so I'm not going to be sending English language direct mail to people in English speaking parts. So that's off the table and not something I would bother with for my getting visible.
Well, and I hear you. I mean, like, I get it. There's some different strategies. And if you're going direct, Amazon sales or whatever, I mean, obviously you're going for volume and you're going to get, the percentages of the sales. I'm for that. But sometimes my strategy is to build my own client list.
Yeah, exactly.
And sell at maximum prices to people that hopefully like me. And as I add new items to my catalog, I want them to hopefully buy the new books. So the idea would be hopefully people like my stuff and I keep getting money from them. And
I totally get it.
And I can build, like, say I get 1,000 raving fans that actually genuinely like everything I do. And it really, I'm not saying I'm there, but that's, I may have, I've got, I don't know, 5,000 people on my list, but probably only 1,000 are legitimately gonna get everything. And I wouldn't say that's 1,000 raving fans. It's maybe 300 raving fans, if you will.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, how do I do this? So, I'm asking the question, is it worth it to spend, let's say, $2,000 on a marketing effort that I might make $2,000 to $2,500? I mean, some might say, yeah, because I'm expanding it. People are buying, I'm getting the movement going. But there's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I don't actually see the finances grow. It's kind of like, is that really a good thing? So, I mean, that's a current question I'm wrestling with here as we head into the fall and Christmas season, as I have new books that I'm putting out that, I want people to buy. I need to let people know about it. And
right.
So, some of my lists are not driven much by email. So if I email them the new product, they may not even see it.
So you're basically saying you have a lot of old people on your list.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, sure. Thanks for reading fast.
Well, no, I mean, I'm talking to another guy. I don't think I'll ever have him on this podcast, and I don't think I'll ever be on his, but we talk a lot in Voxer. This guy, Josh Kachadorian, and his podcast is called The Standard, and his audiobook, and his book is called The Standard, and he's doing video. He's doing reels. He's doing stuff related to being seen everywhere, because of the type of brand he's building and the coaching he's doing. He's, faith, fitness, finance, and family are his 4 pillars in his message, right? And working with a lot of business people, and he's been in corporate for a long time and stuff, but like on fire for Jesus, like you and I, right? And we're exploring doing written stuff together, but his main focus is a lot of the get seen and get visible and be everywhere his ideal person is. And I'm watching and learning and paying attention, taking notes and whatever. And that's one of the reasons I'm motivated to get this podcast going again. And for the type of guests I could talk to and for the types of things I could put out there, just giving information and staying in line with what I was doing with this podcast for years. So I'm telling you this. This is kind of like part 2 of that point, but a different thing, different story. So like my biggest client that I ever had, a ghostwriting client, we went a long time not hearing from each other, and he got sick with COVID and all this kind of stuff. And then, I'd finished ghostwriting his book and wrote him and stuff. And we were going to talk, and then I never heard from him, and something else happened, and he had to get surgery and so on. And he's a healthy guy. I'm not talking about some old guy who's like, just wearing out. And so I just being careful not to name names or name drop. And we finally talked like last month, and he's like, no, the Lord told me that book was done. We're not going to release it. And I'm thinking, oh dear God, please don't be ready to ask me for like a refund or something. I did my part, and now you've changed your mind. And he's like, no, just consider it like a, sowing you into you on the mission field and whatever. I'm like, okay, well, and I remember feeling a bit relieved because of other stresses and other things that releasing that book getting ready to release that book would cause. And so I was relieved that I don't have to worry about it, but I was disappointed because I'm like, but now that testimonial of this high caliber guy that worked with Steve Bremner, like, there would be other people coming to work with me after this. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to get that testimony of being able to show off his book that like I helped him create.
I think he can still claim it. You just could say, you never released it. I mean,
sure. It's not the same testimony to say, here's the book and hold it in your hands and smell it and show it to people, hand it to people over coffee. That's not the same. It's not the same as doing that. It's kind of like praying for somebody to be healed and they throw their crutches away and get out of their wheelchair rather than just saying, I prayed for someone to be healed. Well, like then what? Right. And so I'm saying that to say, because it was a half-hour call I was going to have with him, I asked him like, well, since we're not talking about your book, can we still continue this call until, can I still avail myself of your wisdom and insight and whatever this call? And so I was asking him questions like, would you be willing to refer anyone to me after this experience? And I can't remember what question I asked him, but one of the things he said to me was, everybody's hurting right now. Like everybody, like all my clients, they have less revenue or fewer clients, or like it's everyone's. Don't feel bad if you're seeing a dip in your, prospecting and fewer people want to work with you and stuff. And it's everyone. It's all over the board. So anyway, I'm saying that to say, get on podcasts, Steve. Go be on people's podcasts. Go get heard in places where dozens or hundreds of people are going to hear you all at once about what you offer, and
it's true,
and try to get calls and stuff. And so that's why I started getting on some podcasts like you saw. And then it dawned on me, the Lord was speaking to me the other day of, I told you the types of people I'm going to, start approaching and asking to be on this podcast that I'm like, they're in our circles, but just in a different, outlook and business acumen. And over and over again, I just kept seeing people say things like, be visible, be everywhere, put out content, not like go be on every single platform and make TikToks and make reels, but like just be front and center and put top of people's minds. And I'm saying that to circle back around to how Christians struggle with that, because they think they're glorifying themselves and not Jesus if they attempt to do that. And they think it's like, whatever hangups they have about doing that kind of stuff. And I see your posts in my feed all the time. You post like 8 times a day, and I've seen, okay, do you have a book on like the Beast of Revelation out or something? No, like I'm seeing it in my, so I talk to Christians all the time who don't want to do that kind of stuff. And then they want to reap a harvest where they're not sowing. They want to have the book fly off the shelves or to get big fat paychecks from Amazon every month. But then you ask them what they're doing and they're like, oh, nothing. I wrote the book. I put it on Amazon.
Yeah, well, let me comment about the Beast of Revelation book just briefly.
Yeah, do
it. We opened up our conversation here talking about marketing, and I felt like I had a really good. I can't say I thought it out. I just sort of did it. Like, there's all kinds of content in that book. A lot of biblical parts and history stuff. And some of it's pretty rich and detail oriented. I put a lot of work into it. Well, I found I could just pull little sections of it out, and a lot of them were self-contained, and I actually just posted them as articles on Facebook. And everybody says, well, no one reads long-form content. Well, most of these were 500 words, or there may have been some approaching 1,000 words. But I just slapped them up on Facebook. Got a good picture from Unsplash that's free that kind of fit the theme of it, and I posted it on there, and said, and then I put, excerpt from Beast of Revelation book. You'd be surprised, Steve. I probably sold 300 books, I would guess, from people I didn't even know. And several of them bought from my own store. So now I have their contact info and I can actually follow up later. But basically doing, you might say, content-oriented marketing, where I just basically gave away something. And I had one guy tell me, well, man, you're going to give away all your book. I said, actually, it's not true. I still have, I may have gave away 15% of my book, if you will, on all the posts I did. And there's still, a whole lot of content that people couldn't read, but it's almost like try before you buy. If people read the articles and they like them, like, hey, maybe I actually like what this guy has to say. And obviously I picked stuff that was, a little more provocative. And so I actually felt like my experience with the, little articles, little excerpts. And I wouldn't always put the link to the book right in the post because, obviously Facebook really doesn't like that, but I would put it in the comments. Mm-hmm. But I did put in the post, this is an excerpt from, or an adaptation from such and such book, the Beast of Revelation. And my experience, I think I was able to engage probably easily 1,000 people or more on these different articles. And it actually, I think, brought a lot of interest and intrigue about my books. I'm really grateful for that. So that we're talking about books and engagement marketing, that actually worked well for me in this.
So content marketing. Content marketing. I'm thinking, and I'm not naming names and I'm being careful so not to embarrass anyone, but I was talking to someone last week who wrote a book in a similar vein as one of mine, and I asked, like, how's your book doing? No, I find people don't want to buy it. Like, the language caught me, and I said, well, are you sure? Because people are buying, my book on that same topic, like that same subject. So, I went and I looked it up on Amazon. I saw the, not many reviews. I don't know if the cover is one that sells. I don't know these things, right? And I was asking questions like, so, like, what are you doing to market it? Oh, I have a group. Okay, like, what's your group? And I go and I look at it. It's got like 200 people. Like, what do you? So, like, what does that mean? What does it mean you have a group? What does this mean? What's the correlation between I have a group and I sell or don't sell my book? And she said, well, I can't remember what the answer was. I didn't understand the correlation. So finally, I was like, do you do anything else? Do you do Amazon ads? Do you guest on podcasts? Do you do anything to be? Nope. So I was like, okay, I think we might have figured out something, So, like, you have a small group of like a couple hundred people, and there's no guarantee like everybody in your group or everybody on your mailing list or every one of your friends and family, every one of your, I harp on this on social media, right? Just because you wrote a book doesn't mean your friends care. You know what I mean? They're not going to automatically buy it, right? So it's like I want to fish in the same pond over and over again. And, I'm trying to get the person to kind of have a self-revelation and not push them, right? That, well, what are you doing to be seen in front of new eyeballs every week, every month? Right. And I don't think podcasting in and of itself is the answer. It's a tool, it's a strategy, right? You just talked about content marketing. And then there's another brother contacted me. He wanted me to help him with his next book. And he said, like, my first book that I've been doing for years and trying to promote doesn't sell very well. I was like, well, what are you doing? Oh, I just go and I post the link to it in groups. Okay, but are you posting it in groups where people care? Like, people want, like, because I knew who he was and we've blocked him from our Time Is Right group because that's what he would do over and over again, right? Years ago. So And he said to me, well, like, I would love to sell my book like Praying Medic does. I was like, oh, okay, well, what are you doing that Praying Medic does? You know, like, how are you building a following? How are you building authority? So like people know who you are. And nothing. I'm not doing anything. Do you appear on podcasts? Do you write articles in different people's websites? Do you do, no. So it's like, so,
right.
And then I could explore that further, but I've only got so much time before my microphone, my laptop will die. I did that on purpose so that we're forced to be concise. Anyway, I was sort of interrupting you. You were about to say something that it looked like I provoked you to think.
No, I mean, we're talking about marketing and different ideas. I mean, one of the things I did do with this Beast book, and there's a person I admire. I mean, I'll say his name. I don't mind name dropping in this because it's positive. But Gary DeMar, and he's a Presbyterian, Reformed kind of academic type guy, and I like him. I respect him. We have a friendship, and I'm a charismatic who is not Reformed, and we shouldn't be friends, Gary and I, but we are. And he actually came and spoke at my church one time, and I've maintained the relationship. It's important to build relationships with, smart, intelligent, fruitful people. And I'm glad I'm friends with him. Anyway, I did a revamp of my Beast book, and I sent it to him. I said, hey, Gary, would you write a foreword for it? And he read it. He goes, this is actually good, JD. I would love to.
He's like, this is good despite what yeah. I'm surprised you could write a good book.
Yeah. No. And anyway, to make a long story short, he not only liked it, not only wrote the foreword, but he asked if he could carry it in his store. So it's great. So basically, them wanting to carry it, I could actually get it printed locally, and their wholesale purchase would pay for a whole print run for me. So I could sell to my own friends and colleagues, a high quality production book and not actually have any out of pocket expenses. But not only that, people on his list, bought the book and started buying my other books and reaching out to me through email. And so, here I have some of these Reform guys, that are surprised that a charismatic guy might actually have any, theological insight or anything, sensible to say, but they're actually interacting with me positively. And, and one guy goes, I can't believe you're charismatic. I didn't see anything in the book that would even indicate that. I said, well, I wasn't necessarily trying to talk about that topic. And anyway, the point for this our conversation here now is I was able to leverage a relationship, delivered something that this person felt was good. They were willing to get behind it. And then they actually started promoting my book out on their store. Now, in a sense, I lost sales, but I didn't because I don't have that market. I don't have those people. He has them. He's emailing. They're buying from his store. But my book has my own book ads and contact info in the back. So as they buy it, they're reaching out to me. So I'm building and expanding an audience in an area that it would be hard for me personally to do if it wasn't for Gary's influence. So
I'm hearing you say relationships, perhaps
right.
Another word. Networking with like-minded or with people who have a different audience than you do.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Ammon, I've done the audiobook. It's all recorded for his book on Amillennialism,
right?
Power of His Reign. And the same thing, he'll tell you, if I could remember our conversations over the last year or two, the audience for it is not his, like the charismatic kind of world as much as Reformed people. And, because he's got these other very theological, I don't want to say academic, but like intelligent,
right?
The prophetic charismatic. What was the prophetic apologetic? That one on the Balaam.
Yeah, I like
things. He's got this unique take of like an intelligent, thoughtful, charismatic Pentecostal type of writer. And same thing, he's got this book, similar theme as yours, that's taking off in a different stream. And same thing, right. you don't, so you've said content marketing and relationship, kind of networking with people, right? I've been trying to harp on the visibility and getting seen and putting yourself in front of new eyes.
Yeah. And while we're at it, these people are emailing me and all. I'm actually including them in my list and my potential marketing. Although in the case of the one, I'm kind of segmenting it because I know they may not be interested in all the books I produce. But I'm trying to build a list. I'm trying to build people I can directly.
List building.
Yes.
You've got a website, right?
I have a store. Yeah.
Right.
And I have. I mean, I've got to get. I actually purchased a site for me personally as an author, and I've been dragging my feet on actually getting it finished, adequately. That's probably, I need to listen to you have a podcast with somebody on doing that. But I have a store I use quite a bit, the resurgentstore.com. It has all my books and things. And it works pretty good for sales. I mean, that's actually where I'd prefer to sell my books for two reasons. I keep 95% of the profit, and I also get their contact info so I can continue to engage them after the fact.
Right. So you're saying you'd rather keep the sales as much as possible through your website and for profit reasons and for contact reasons of, these people probably will buy your future books.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
But you also still sell on Amazon.
I do. I think it's an interesting strategy. My strategy is to sell to everybody I know through my store, and then to contact the people I don't know and get them, through Amazon, So that's my audience. My audience, I want to go on the Resurgent store, my bookstore. But the people who don't know me obviously are going to approach me through Amazon. So I keep that in mind with my marketing and my strategies. But I ask people, I don't send out links to Amazon to my list. In fact, I even put my ebooks a lot of times, as a PDF. I'd rather them still buy an ebook from me because, again, I keep more of the money. And, and I also like to do package deals. Like, for example, this Beast book I just told you about, I actually packaged one of my old ebooks of a similar topic. So I said, if you buy the book today, you'll get the ebook, a physical book mailed to you signed, and you are going to get an ebook an audio book of a book I'd done before. It's a pretty good deal. It's like a $50 value for $20.
Right.
But I find that works pretty good.
Right. Have you heard of free plus shipping? There's a lot of business gurus do it.
I buy those products from time to time.
Yep. But what's attached to them is like an upsell, where it's like, okay, I'm sending you the book just for I'm shipping it to you and you pay that fee. But there's all this other stuff, and so it's a loss leader, and the people who do it right are still, establishing themselves and their credibility and can afford to do it and stuff.
Well, if we just break that down for just a minute, let's say they're charging you $7 for shipping, let's just say. Well, you can ship right now media mail, at least in the U.S., for like $3.85, something like that. Your envelope might cost you $0.25. If you print enough books, you're down to $1 or $2 a book. So you're still making $1, maybe $1.50 a book. But more importantly, you're getting the contact info.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so if you don't upsell the products, you've got a list of people you can actually market other products and things to. And even if you're making a few dollars at different times from these people, if you have 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, that could be quite a successful business, really.
Right. And I've definitely dropped the ball over the years with trying to really build my email list and not keeping up with it frequently or regularly enough. And, starting with one goal in mind and then changing it along the way and just try to kind of purge the list and get people to unsubscribe and stuff who don't want to be on it and whatever. And I've tried with digital content in my store. My bundles and things are related to digital and not shipping physical things to people because of just how cost prohibitive it is for me to do it from South America. And then whenever I did, initially have kind of sales of my book, the 9 Lies People Believe About Speaking in Tongues, through my website, then I was basically having my mom or, family member or someone ship them for me. It's like, hey, I got some sales through my site, and so I'm having someone in North America take. If it's in Canada, then I have copies at my mom's. If it's in America, then the World Outreach Center, my mission agency, has them for me. And, so every time I have a client, I get a new client that I start working with, I always send them a copy of the book. And so the American ones, I go have someone at World Outreach send them one for me, so I can't sign them and stuff like that. But So digital has been my focus.
Well, I think digital is great. I mean, I obviously sell digital products. As a matter of fact, sometimes I do teachings or whatever, like high level teachings that some people might be more interested in that than anything else. But I actually put those on free on my Shopify store, and I still require everybody that buys anything from me, including free, to put all their contact info in. So from time to time, I put a audio teaching or even audio book online. I mean, I do a link on Facebook or social media, say, hey, you could get this free teaching, no strings attached. But I guess the string that's attached is I now know who people are that like my stuff. And so I can actually talk about other things. And I mean, I think there's a wisdom to that. Take the resources you have, the things you're producing, give it away, but use it as an ability to build a relationship or connection and leverage that connection point to, talk about other products or other things.
You know what, during my 3-year hiatus, or 4 years technically, since the last episode was just putting up a audiobook sample of a Praying Medic book, one of the people who'd reached out to me and I have just followed back with this week, he had a publicist of some sort, and they were reaching out to me, and they had a link to go learn more about him. And I went to his website and stuff, and there was sign up for his, sign up here and get his book for free. And you go and you sign up for it, and it's like, if you click here, you can get the audiobook free and the digital, like a PDF of my book, free. And I go and I do that. I go and I sign up, and just maybe to listen to the audiobook as prep if he does get back to me and I do get to talk to him, because some people reached out to me in 2021 and 2022 and stuff, and I'm like, now finally, so I'm like, are you still interested? But I go and right. All his audiobook is like a playlist on SoundCloud. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I could have just gone and gotten this without signing up, but I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it except for I was in his funnel, his sales funnel, we call it, or whatever. Yeah. And so I'm signed up, I'm on his mailing list, for his email list for whatever. But it was just simple. Sure. I went and I looked him up on Audible, and the book is there, and he narrated it, and it's his, it's got reviews, it's got people buying it, listening to it. His book is on Amazon. It had hundreds of reviews and stuff. He's not just some no name trying to find, his publicist was looking for the right people for him to be interviewed by. And I thought to myself, well, that's easy. If if you're bootstrapped or you're struggling for resources, I didn't think this person was, if he's got a publicist, but it was just a simple audio book that's free to listen to on SoundCloud. My SoundCloud is just the samples of the different audiobooks I've done, and I have them I have the playlist on suitable pages on my website, or blog posts that are related where it would be beneficial for the reader to be presented with those samples. And
yeah. Well, I think in this whole conversation about, engaging people or marketing, whatever we want to call this, I think creating lots of pieces of content that can be found, you might say breadcrumbs that have value. I think we could discuss this, whether you're writing a book, whether you're doing a podcast, whether you're, whatever you're doing, article, blog post, whatever, are you adding value to people? Are they hearing or seeing things that they can actually put to work in some way? And all the better if you actually have a book or product that you're actually, putting things that relate to what you've written about or what you're doing, and then people can read that and go, well, I could get the book here and get more. And there's a lot of value. I get surprised, as you mentioned, I do a lot of social media posts, and sometimes it's just, I'm sitting there, I'm goofing around, or I've read something, and I try to write something every day. It may just be, 100 words, but, I try to write something every day. But I get shocked, I write a piece, and sometimes a post will last 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. Last night, a post I did probably almost a week ago, I heard a comment, a politician quoted G.K. Chesterton, talking about kind of a social issue, and not to try to define it or whatever, because I know we got all kinds of people of all persuasions here on this, listening to this. But anyway, they're quoting this great, theologian and thinker G.K. Chesterton. So I actually looked up the reference that the politician quoted. I really liked the reference, so I selected the whole reference, and then I wrote 2 paragraphs to set up kind of almost poetically what G.K. Chesterton was talking about, and I kind of made it relate to some questions that we have today. So it's basically 3 paragraphs. 2 of them are mine, 1 of them is his. I found a nice picture of G.K. Chesterton. I edited it a little bit, popped it on there. But I think keeps spreading and spreading. And then I think it was last night, Michael Brown liked it. Dr. Michael Brown. I mean, you and I know Dr. Brown. I respect Dr. Brown. I mean,
he's let me interview him about writing years ago.
Yeah, I think I've actually listened to that podcast. But here, Dr. Brown. Okay, what am I saying? I'm saying, you write pieces, you write content, and then people see it. And I've had people that I respect. There's one guy like Jeremiah Johnson, a famous evangelist, who said that he reads some of my articles or posts from time to time. Like, wow, really? And so, I realize when I write, I mean, not everybody that reads my stuff is liking it or commenting on it, seeing it. So if I consistently put out content, have a response. I mean, I'll give you another. I mean, this will date this podcast a little bit, but Loretta Lynn died today, and she's a famous American country singer, and I'm not a big country music fan, but I can kind of appreciate the classic artists, like your Hank Williams Sr. or your George Jones. And I mean, what I appreciate about the artists is there's an authenticity, a genuineness in their voice and so an article that basically country music is garbage, but this woman here had heart and it reflected a different era. Now I said it a lot more poetically and better than that.
Yeah, I know the post you're talking about. I saw it.
I spread it, it's being spread galore. And so basically I made a social comment and I sort of related a little bit to God, which is part of my concern. And I genuinely stated a genuine opinion I have. And it's resonating with people diplomatically and it's spreading around. And so I figure, if I write, 4 or 5 posts a day, just stuff I'm seeing, something I'm thinking, trying to put a little bit of a nugget of the gospel in it or something else. I figure I'm impacting people, I'm influencing them. And then when I want to write something or sell something, if people have read enough of my writing and they think it's good, then they might take a chance on my book.
Mm-hmm. If you mind me interrupting you here, I'm just looking at the time, is your Facebook profile is optimized so that like somebody, and I don't have it pulled up for me right now just to minimize the resources on my laptop not being plugged in.
Yeah.
And what I understand and know about your Facebook and perhaps your other social media profiles, but like I've noticed with Facebook, is it's optimized for what you want to do with it. If you want people to know you're an author, you want people to know that you've got a book for sale, you don't need to splash and be posting about your book all the time. Put it on people's minds regularly, but without spamming the heck out of your followers. And, somebody just clicks on your name and they can go to your page and see how to buy something. They can go to your page and see your cover photo. Like maybe I can't remember, but for a while it's been your latest book. Right. And I believe you've got like a link in the description. Like if somebody goes to the photo, so it's like you've got your social media profile optimized for that type of response.
Absolutely. Intentionally, obviously.
And I try to as well. Thanks, Tobin Slavin. All about optimizing. If you're after a certain goal with your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your website, that it's like you got to optimize these things so that people know exactly who you are, what you offer. If it's a book that you're selling, that they can how to go get it. It's not just some tab somewhere at the top in the corner and so on and so forth. And I sometimes, I'll talk to people and they say, sometimes I get people, they message me through my website and they want me to narrate an audiobook, and those are more, that's another conversation of why I turn down more than I accept. And then I'll be like, what's the book? Like what, I specifically say like, give me the link, tell me more, how long is it and stuff like that. Is it already on sale or is it like in production and you want to release an audio with it? And so most people, like if I have to go looking, then I'm not even going to continue the conversation. And then if they say something like it's about this, well, like, and then I'll copy and paste their name into Facebook sometimes and see if they're there. And if they are, and I can't tell, like, if I got the right person, and then if I do, and there's no, I can't find like how to go find their book. I'm like, no wonder you're having a hard time seeing sales if it's this hard for potential people who might want to look at your book. If it's hard for people who are interested to find it, then what about people who don't even know it exists and you're not doing anything to introduce it to them or put it in front of the right eyeballs,
Well, this is a good conversation. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that need to be talked about when it comes to books and, prep, planning, engagement, quality writing, good covers, good editing. But I still think, trying to have, a better understanding about marketing, because I think, I think we all struggle with it. I mean, nobody, sells as many books as they want to, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure if we put Stephen King in a interview, he would talk about he doesn't sell as many fiction books as he wishes he would. Probably
Sure.
Would laugh and say, really? So I mean, everybody wants to sell more books, and it isn't it's difficult, but I think we can all do better with it. Thinking better. I mean, here's the thing: on a certain level, as an author, I think we're sort of selling ourselves, our worldview, our thinking. And if people like you, they like how you think, they like some of the things that you point out, then they probably be willing to buy your book. And so I think, you're talking earlier about, Christians, are they willing to get out there, willing to talk, willing to engage? I mean, I think, becoming yourself, but having your authentic voice, hopefully you're motivated by pure and sincere desires to, really help people. But there's nothing wrong with actually, growing yourself or seeing your own influence increase. If God gives you the coat of many colors, you should put it on, wear it. I mean, what your Father gave you. It's not, humility is not thinking less of yourself than you really are. Humility is just being honest, being real, and assessing your position and whatever honestly and realistically. And so, I mean, if you're going to write a book, I mean, I hope if you're writing a book, you feel like you have something to say. I mean, something, you have a view, you have something.
Like if God has called you to write something, like if he's birthed that on your heart, I sort of think it's disobedient to not do your part beyond, beyond writing the book. Like, no, I'm not talking about do your part and you write it and you're like transcribing revelation from the Holy Ghost. I'm talking about, so now the book exists. It's sort of disobedient to not do it with excellence. That was the ghostwriter I told you about, where we're not going to publish his book. It was on, excellence in the workplace, wherever God's called you. If you're not in full-time ministry, your job is your ministry, doing all things unto the Lord, as unto the Lord. Well, if you're not doing your book with excellence, you're not, doing what it takes to get the people he wants to reach with it. Like if you're not doing your part to put it into the hands and the eyeballs of the people it's for, then you are sort of disobeying. Yeah. So it's like, you can't expect to reap a harvest that you're not sowing for. And anyway, that's a bit of a soapbox of mine,
Well, I hear you, but I think, we understand this, marketing on a certain level is just having honest conversations, honest presentation of, what you're saying, what you have, how you're engaging people. I do think, whether it be my Facebook posts or articles I write or whatever, I'm authentic. I mean, I don't think somebody's going to find something I write inconsistent with other aspects of my life. I'm pretty honest about interests, things. I mean, and you'll find even common themes. I do humor. I'm not as good at it as you. I do, a little bit of arts, or I do a commentary on music or film. I do, I reflect scripture. I like to reflect on history. You find a lot of that. I mean, and I love, the silliness and family and kids. I mean, you're going to find a lot of that, and that's just the way I am. And I get it. Some people that read my Bible reflections don't really care about my movie critiques or whatever, but I don't care. That's just who I am. I mean, I think my movie critiques are redemptive. I always obviously bring a God perspective into everything I write about, and so I am who I am, and some people like that, some people don't. And marketing is in part about having an honest conversation about who you are, what you're saying, what you're presenting. If there isn't a real point of view, isn't an ability to actually communicate that, you probably have your book's already messed up to begin with.
Maybe we should cut it off, and you promise to come back and do another one like this, because there's more.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
More okay. I want to leave a dangling cliffhanger or whatever, or for people to go look us up and see what we're talking about. Because one thing I wanted to talk about, but I think instead I'll do this like in a very meta way. I was thinking of a video clip of something that is out there. It's public. People could have seen it if they know about it. And there's a section of it I'm going to edit and offer for anyone who wants to. They want to know how they can know ahead of time if their book would really sell. You know, if God's put something on their heart, you know what I'm talking about. We did this, you and I, with someone on Zoom. So I'm going to do it as they call it a two-step or engagement bait post. I'll go do this. And then so people listening to this, I'll wait a few days so as many as possible can listen to this and then go look and see me do it. And I'll do a Facebook post and say, you know, whoever would like this, just leave a comment. And there might be nobody, there might be many. I don't know. I've done something like this before with the thing I use on my website for people who want to write their book in 30 days, or if they needed a toolkit. And I basically didn't even have it yet, but I asked for opinions. And then the people who commented on it, I said, you know, book me in the comments. And then I'd go DM them and say, so what would you like this to include or tackle? And then that gave me the idea, that gave me the content to know what people want because they're telling me. Right? So listener, I'm being meta. There's a way you can know what to write about. But I've also got a video where I showed someone exactly how I would determine if people would buy her book topic, you know, before she'd written it. So I'm going to do this on my Facebook sometime in the next week or two, maybe no longer than 2 weeks from now, and just offer, like, who wants this? Leave a comment and I'll DM it to you, but leave a comment. And then that's a conversation starter. Some people will ignore me. They think I'm going to corner them and not give it to them unless they talk to me or something, but whatever. And then there's so many ideas that people can try with stuff like that in business, but even with their books, there's things like, I've done lives where I've said, like, who would be interested in this? Or, you know what, I'm finding this, I have this thing that comes to mind right now, and it takes off and people like it and forward it and stuff. And it's just some spontaneous thing I make in my, you know, neighborhood when I'm out for a walk and I've got data on my phone. I'm using my, you know, I'm streaming something. My wife doesn't like it because, you know, we live in Peru. We live in kind of a developing area. So she's like, you're trying to get affluent clients, but you're doing these videos showing like this, you know, this horrible neighborhood we live in. And I was like, well, it's just being real. It's being where we are and the people we minister to. And this, what I do, I charge a high price so that we can minister here, right? Like, that's the point. And so anyway, I'm saying, and then I'm surprised sometimes things that are well thought out and planned, people ignore. And then these other spontaneous things, I just turn my phone on and say something and like get hundreds of hits in the next day or two that are resonating. So, you know, God might just speak to you something to do besides putting like a political meme, you know, or whatever. Like, you know, I click on some people's profiles and I don't know what they're about as far as their business goes, but I know what their opinions are because all their posts are about like Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Alexandria, you know, her eyes or something, like, and people post, and I was like, okay, you know, or they're slamming Elon Musk or someone that has a lot of money, and it's like, and they're broke, but they're slamming wealthy people, and they wonder why their words are speaking against them. Anyway, that's another conversation, another podcast. And so
right.
But I'm saying there's just these simple things you could be doing to elevate your authority on your own profile and draw attention to if God's put on your heart, what God's put on your heart.
Yeah, and I think that offer you're talking about, you know, helping someone see whether their idea, their concept actually will sell, like, that's fantastic. I've seen you do it, and I think it's worth doing. I have to admit, you know, as an author, sometimes, you know, I admittedly, even though there's books I want to do and intend to do that I know are not that marketable. I just like the idea. But I'm also honest about it when I'm doing a project like that. I say, okay, you know what, this is a passion project, and it's something that means something to me, and I understand that I will not make money from it. But, you know, I do tend to I want to do a better job about learning how to align my own personal interests with things people want to buy, you know.
Same here. I'm always learning.
You know, and I'm going to do better with that in the future.
All right. Well, I asked you for just 45 minutes of your time, and I'm appreciative of how you're busy, and then I'm leaving it with you to end with any last thoughts or something.
Well, I just think, you know, if you know, ideas can change the world, and you know, and you know, effective communication can change minds. I think we should take it seriously, and particularly if you feel like you have a calling to write or, create. I mean, do it with excellence, do it with passion, do it with sincerity, and expect that the things you do are going to make a difference, that you're going to bear fruit with what you write, what you release.
Amen. Well, thanks, JD, for your time. I'm hitting the stop button now. Well, did you enjoy that? Did you get some good nuggets out of that discussion? Did you make note of what he was, well, I guess both of us, but especially JD was talking about with social content? And, you don't have to think up some brilliant thing every single day or multiple times per day. But one of the ways you can do it is just respond and react to things that are going on and insert your own opinion. There's memes that go around and you can kind of put your own take on it. He used the example of the country singer whose name slips my mind now, and putting a comment on it or taking, something he's reflecting on and posting it. So immediately after recording this call, I went on Facebook and I made a comment like, I just did this podcast with JD, and I tagged him in it, and I'm going to eat my own dog food, or what did I say? Take my own medicine and make a post about what I want you to know I do, which is write books and help people write books, right? And I basically called out, not mentioning anyone's names, but like, look, some of you need to be told. You need to optimize your Facebook page. You need to be mindful of what you're posting, because how will your intended audience know your book is for them if they don't even know you've written a book and they don't even know that book exists? So anyway, those are some nuggets that I want to reiterate. And interact. Post things that your audience can interact with. So I'm going to go do some show notes. I'm going to link to every book or anything relevant that we mentioned in this podcast that it would benefit you to go and look up, read, download, buy. And if you are the type of person, as they say, the avatar, you're the bullseye, I am what you're looking for to write your book or help you write your book, or you've written a book and don't know what to do next, specifically Christian, right? I don't do novels. I don't help just anybody and everybody who wants to write a book. There's a lot of you, and many of you will never make your way through that process. Just you're content to keep talking about it. Well, I'm not talking about people who just talk about it, but if you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so. You can find everything you need to know about me at stevebremner.com. If you don't know how you came across this podcast, Fire on Your Head is the name of this show, but you can find it at stevebremner.com. You can go and whatever podcatcher you're listening to, go catch it there. We're on Spotify. That's another development over the years since I've been on hiatus. If you are in Audible, you have the Audible app and you listen to audio books all the time, then make sure to check us out there. We're Fire on Your Head, just like everywhere else. And you can rate and review individual episodes. So if you're a long-time listener and there's episodes in the archives that you have enjoyed and you want to give some love to, let's see what happens. I'm curious how this works, reviewing individual episodes. Go and leave us some kind of rating at the very least where you listen to your podcasts, but especially those of you who are doing it on Audible now. I don't. I use a Stitcher. But for those of you who don't use Apple Podcasts, which is still the main place to do it, but it's impossible to go to that website and not know how to reach me, how to get in touch with me. There's invitations to make a call with me, especially if you want to talk about your book. I'm not inexpensive to work with. I'm not able to help people on a shoestring budget. There's plenty of free resources and things. The group JD and I talked about, The Time is Right, is the name of it. Right being spelled WRITE. But if you go to that, stevebremner.com, do you have any doubts about what the website is? myname.com. I've said it, 25 times. But maybe you're listening to this and you have absolutely no desire whatsoever to write a book, but you enjoy these podcasts, you enjoy these shows, and you might know the right person who would like to work with me. Well, then know this. I offer a referral fee. Sorry, if you refer somebody to me and they hire me, they're the right fit, they're the type of person I want to work with, and I'm talking about making their book. I'm not talking about they're ready to print it and they want somebody to make an ebook. But we're talking about the project, the whole thing. And I've done this for audiobooks that I've done for people. I've paid a 10% referral fee. So obviously there's no benefit to you. If somebody comes and has me do their Kindle book for $150, I'm not sending you 15. Anyway, I have an offer sheet on Google Drive. I share only with prospects, but I've shared it with other people who have in turn sent me clients who they didn't want or they couldn't afford or they weren't the right fit for working with me. If you want to know more information about exactly who I work with, keep listening to these episodes. You'll get an idea. But if not, and you want to see it in writing, just contact me and ask me. It's a private document. I don't have my prices on my website, and I certainly wouldn't say them on the podcast because I plan on these sitting on the internet for years. So it's like my prices are going to go up. I mean, all my expenses are going up. So, I mean, I got to raise my rates too. So they're not going to be the same forever. But contact me only if you're serious or you don't even think you're going to work with me, but you want to let somebody else know about me and you want to make sure it's a good idea. Just contact me. Anyway, this is a long drawn out outro, but again, I knew only the faithful, the dedicated would make it to the end, so I saved it for just those of you who you do want to partner together on books, whether yours or someone else's. So thank you again for listening, and I appreciate you. If you've been subscribed to this podcast all these years and you were just waiting for a new one to show up on your smartphone or whatever method you're using to listen to audio podcasts, then just know I'm grateful for you hanging in there, waiting for us, giving me some patience, and see you next week. Fire on your head.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, you can find us in iTunes or on Stitcher Radio, or directly at fireonyourhead.com for more options. If you want to support Steve and Lily Bremner as missionaries in Peru, or find out more about what they do, be sure to head over to their blog at stevebremner.com, or check out Steve's Kindle books on Amazon and leave reviews of the ones you liked. See you next time.